we'll look into the book of Mark tonight, chapter 5, verses 41 and 42. Mark chapter 5, 41 and 42, speaking of Jesus and one of his miracles. And he took the damsel by the hand and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say unto thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years. And they were astonished with a great astonishment. Astonishment, astonished. I want to consider that word and that concept tonight. Its definition is greatly surprised or impressed, amazed. And as we consider this, God help us to be greatly impressed with his word and what he can do. This passage we find Jesus doing what he did best, another miracle. And he was went to by a man named Jairus, and he told him, my daughter's very sick and I need you to come. And as Jesus got ready to go, there was a big tumult, and at the same time, there's a lady who comes up and pushed as close as she could to Jesus, reached out and touched him and was healed instantly. Yeah. And as all of that went forth, and I don't know if the Jairus was worried about the time it was taken because his daughter was so sick, but as this Jesus told the woman that her faith had made her whole, and as they got ready to go again, they come up and told him, he said, don't bother the teacher. He says, your daughter passed away. She did. And Jesus went, and he told them, oh, she's just asleep, and they laughed at him and made fun of him. But when he spoke those words as she came to life, they quit making fun of him. They quit laughing, and they started going, oh, wow. And, this word astonishment is used 50, 60 times in the Bible, and in the New Testament, it's primarily used in conjunction with, guess who? Jesus. And the things he did, and how he was so powerful. I can almost hear, if you think about it, as he healed that girl, can you almost hear the comments? Did you see that? I can't wait to tell my wife. Never in a million years would I have expected something like that. Wait till old so-and-so hears about this one. I can't believe it. I think those are all things that probably were, if not said, considered. Things that people understood what they were seeing. They didn't even understand yet who Jesus was. And you might think, well, they did not know Jesus very well to be astonished at something he did. But, actually, I think that it's okay. As we look at it like this, sometimes Jesus does amazing stuff. Sometimes we need to step back and just take a look and go, wow, that's pretty cool. He did something pretty neat there. And this is what those people were doing. They were astonished. They were amazed. They looked at him and they realized that, wow, we got something here. This person knows what he's doing. This person is real. They were astonished at his doctrine, at his delivery, astonished at his miracles, astonished where he came from. Couldn't believe that he could raise the dead. His closest followers watched him calm the seas, and they just stood in amazement and astonishment at what he did. Actually, it's actually okay to be astonished at what God does. It's okay to be impressed. We should get excited about it. We come around here and we hear the things that God does and the wonderful miracles, how he hired somebody in the Carter administration all the way to now. And the guy kept a job and all of those wonderful things that God does. We appreciate that. We need to realize that we serve a big God. We serve a God that can answer prayer. He does some amazing things, even for us. I'd like to give you one that astonished my wife and I. Many years ago, as she started into this illness of hers that was very confusing to say the least, and primarily most confusing to the doctors that she had. And she was referred from where she going to the doctor there in Sacramento to a specialist in San Francisco, about 90 miles away. And she had never had the opportunity to get to the doctor yet. And one day on a Saturday, we had a garage sale there at the house for the church, and there was a young couple there with us, and my wife started to have this terrible chest pain and had a very difficult time breathing, and she didn't know what to do, so she got on the phone and called the hospital in San Francisco, and they said, yeah, bring her over. And, that's not just a 5-minute trip. It takes a little while to get there, so we loaded her in the car, and this young couple kind of disappeared on us. And what they had done is they went out and they made some phone calls and told some people to start praying. And they called people in Sacramento. They called people in Port Angeles. They called people in Richmond. They called people, I don't know where all. But people started to pray. And as we drove to San Francisco, we stopped at the church in Richmond, and we had a curbside prayer service. Brother Bill came out and prayed for her right in the car. And we went over there, and as we pulled into the hospital, my wife looked at me and said, I don't need to go in. I'm fine. She still had her illness, but she was able to breathe. She was able to do whatever was needed. And right then and there, I realized that we have an amazing God. We have a God that can answer prayer. We have a God that does what needs to be done. Amen? We have a God that can give victories. I'm so thankful for that. As we consider this, we want to understand that God does great things, and we can be impressed. We should be. I wish I had time to go around the room and have each of you give us a story of the things that God has done. We heard a few tonight, but I'd love to hear them all. I'd love to just take hours, as they say, and just listen to the wonderful things God does so we can be astonished at His wonderful power. Oh, God, help us as we consider all this. We want to make sure that we believe God for what God can do. We want to make sure that we don't start doubting, start wondering if God can answer prayers. Tonight, can you believe God for the thing that's pressing in your life, something you need? Can you believe God that He can take care of that tonight? Do you believe that God can take care of that tonight? We need to understand that God will answer. Not God might answer. He could answer. But when we pray, we've got to understand that it's then we're getting hold of God and we're allowing Him to show us a wonderful miracle. And we want to believe Him for it. We have a story in the Bible of Peter when he was cast into prison. And as he was there in prison, they had a prayer meeting. Kind of funny how that works. Prayer, God working. Prayer, God doing what needs to be done. And they had this prayer meeting, and Peter was released from prison. Walked out of the prison, walked down the street, went to the door where the prayer meeting, knocked on it. And let me read a few verses in Acts 12 to 16. And when he had considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many of the others were gathered to pray. And as Peter knocked at the door, a damsel came to hearken named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood before the gate. And they said unto her, Thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so. Then they said, It is his angel. But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. God help us not to be in a prayer meeting and be astonished when God works. Help us not to be in a place where we can't figure out what happened. God is going to do things. God is going to work. He is a real God. He is a powerful God. He's a personal God. Aren't you glad that He tailors every miracle for us. Brother Randy has a need. It isn't the same as Brother Bob here. And so he tailors the answer for them, and he'll tailor the answer for you. He'll give you what you need tonight. I believe that. As we consider this, we don't want to have a surprise when God answers prayer. Kind of reminds me of an old football coach, Bill Walsh. He didn't like his players to get all excited and do these touchdown dances and stuff. He says, I want you to score a touchdown and act like you've been there before. Not get so excited that, no, he says, just act like you've been there before. When we see God do something, we want to know, hey, I've seen this before. I know what God can do. I know God can give victories. I know God can help us. We want our faith to be stronger. And this might be, it isn't that difficult. We want our faith to be stronger than those around us. And I don't mean our friends and our Christian friends, but I mean the world and the things of the world. We have to be really careful not to let them give our testimony. And what I mean by that is there was a story in the Bible where Moses sent 12 spies to spy out the land. And of course, they come back to him and said, we can do it. 10 of them said, we can't. So they spent 40 years in the wilderness. And then they got to that place again. And Joshua sent out 2 spies. And he sent them to this, they went into Jericho. They went into this, her name's Rahab the harlot. She was one that God used in a mighty way. As they went into her house, she hid them. And when they got done, and the guys coming in looking for them, and they ran them out, and she told them they weren't here or whatever. And then she went up to them and said, sit down here, I want to tell you a story. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror has befallen us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were on the other side Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in us, in any man, because of you. For the Lord your God, he is the God of heaven above and the earth beneath. Now that sounds like astonishing to me. But it's kind of the wrong thing, because the children of Israel spent 40 years in the wilderness, and according to this account right here, there was absolutely no reason. They could have possessed the land at that moment, because the people of the land were ready to give it up. They were already, we got it. God's here, okay, we're done. And that's kind of what they were saying. But they didn't pursue it. God help us to pursue the victory and not just give up and think, it's later. We don't want somebody else giving our testimony. We don't want somebody else telling what God has done when we can do it. God help us to be able to say, God, I want you to give me a victory tonight. I want you to astonish, if you will. I want you to help. I want you to work. These are the things that God expects us and wants us to do. God will give victories. I believe that. God will give victories. I believe that. But we have to tell the Lord, I believe you. I trust you. Might not be an easy thing. It might not be something that just a simple prayer. But God works, and God will work tonight. Let's sing 154, Come to Pray.